So I'd like to give my greeting to all of you here and also those who are watching or participating online. It's really my great privilege and great honor to be speaking here at Griffith University, one of the well-known, well-respected university in Australia. Personally, I like teaching. I actually have been so far teaching a lot of young leaders, mostly are Cambodian, who live in Cambodia, but also those who live outside of Cambodia. I have taught probably 20,000 plus students so far, but this is a great privilege to be talking to you. I don't call this lecture or teaching, since you all, in a different rank and status. I would call this as a sharing of experience, knowledge from my country, which is being considered as one of the highly corrupt country in the world, unfortunately. But we are, living in that situation, and we have to improve that. And the only way to improve it is to do something. And let me get into that. Thanks, AJ, for helping to navigate that. But before going into the content, let me share with you a small personal story. I have actually been working for a non-governmental organization collectively for 22 years till now. So it's been a bit over 2 decades. And I quit my job at the United Nations, UNDP, to start a Transparency International chapter from scratch about less than 8 years ago. And that was viewed by my friends and my family to be a stupid decision. When you quit your good job from the United Nations and then take this challenging task, and I was advised to change my mind, and I had to take serious consideration at the time. But after 3 days of very serious consideration and meditation, I decided to go ahead and take the job and the new challenges. Of course, it was tough. It have been tough, still quite tough, but I sense it's more rewarding and more meaningful in my own experience. So I take that as a bonus. So let's go to the content. I guess I can do this from here, is it? Yeah. It doesn't seem to move. If you can help me, thank you. So I will begin, which probably everyone in the room have already heard or have already known, the general definition of corruption defined by Transparency International, which says corruption is the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. And then the World Bank also have similar a definition that corruption is the abuse of public office for personal gain. And there is similar definition, and I don't know why, but I figured out later that our founding father, who 25 years ago, set up TI chapter, actually was working for the World Bank as an advisor in Africa. So there might be some mindset, some kind of concept over there. But anyway, this is a general definition of corruption. But AJ just talked about Corruption Perception Index, which is one of our well-known, famous flagship studies and assessments. But TI have many more tools than that. But to give you a quick snapshot of Cambodia, I like to get to this the latest Corruption Perception Index for my country. As you can see on the screen, Cambodia is ranked among the highest corrupt country. It's ranked 161 out of 180, and it scored 20 out of 100. 20 from the bottom, 0 considered highly corrupt or mostly corrupt, and then 100 very clean. So we are way from the bottom, and it's considered the worst in the ASEAN region at the moment. This is a comparison across ASEAN regions, which you see Singapore stand on the top, and then down Cambodia is at the bottom, unfortunately. That's what we are at the moment. Next, I like to go a little further on the common types of corruption that exist in my country, and it's also common types of corruption that exist in highly corrupt countries. Most common one is called bribery, and I'm sure everyone knows what it means. Second one is extortion, is the public officials abuse the power to try to take money or to get some illegal payments from the people. And then the third one is the embezzlement or fraud. And this is for, changing of numbers, faking documents, falsifying receipts and so on, for that definition. And then the fourth is a patronage, when big companies of business or tycoons are working together with politicians, with elites of political power to try to get great business deal, exclusive right or special kind of licensing to do business, and including corruption, abuse of human rights, and then they get a share of mutual benefit for one another. And then the fourth one is nepotism, very common in my country and in the different developing world, when the ministers, also high-level senior officials, are bringing their relatives, the family, their in-laws into the government offices or giving them jobs under their supervision. And then the other one, the number 6, is political corruption, which includes abuses of power on the independent institutions such as the judiciary, the anti-corruption agencies, and more than that includes, in my country, you can consider that as a vote buying, when the politician, when the candidate go out around during the campaign or before the campaign to hand out cash and gift to get people to vote. And that also include manipulation of election results or trying to influence the National Election Commission, so on. That would cover under political corruption. There's one more new, actually, type of corruption which was not on my dictionary. It's new one. It's called sextortion. I don't know if you have heard of that word. It's quite a new one. Sextortion refers to any kind of abuses that are related to sex or arrangement of that nature. But that's now been somehow considered as one of the types of corruption which has been talked about by some organization, and TI has also included that lately as part of our process to design projects to address that. The impacts, there can be some very direct and very obvious impact on corruption, but most often people think it is related to the loss of money or the misuse of resources or budget, but that's not the only consequences or effect of corruption. There are many other indirect consequences or effects which sometimes is not seen, but when you look in it deeply, you can see that. For instance, very briefly on education, there is a low quality of education, and then bribery payment, cheating at the examination, changing the attendance records, getting somebody to write assignment or homework, whatever that is called. That is one of the effects on the education sector. In my country, we had this experience, and high school exam used to be considered as a big problem. But recently, we had to deploy more than 10,000 monitors by the anti-corruption agency to watch the examination. I mean, the student doing the exam, that there was an observer to watch them. So that has been addressed, but it is really very troubling to see that. And of course, when it is related to nepotism, the people who have the knowledge, the skill, the qualification don't often get the job, but the people who have their connection to the power, to the elite, to the official would be given the job. So it is not about how you know, it is about who you know. So this is an effect of that nature. The other one is related to the health sector, and it affects the health quality of the service delivery for the health. People didn't get good services, and they also could get very damaging diagnosis or fake medicines. In our country, there are cases of women die when they were not admitted on time to the medical center when they deliver a baby. And then there were a few cases that caused death, so that's why we say that it kills people. Next, please. And of course, it's a lot of big effects on our natural resources, the environment. We got trees that have been cut and sold to the neighboring countries. Cambodia has a lot of rosewoods. We used to have 70% of our land covered by woods. Most of them are good quality woods, rosewoods. Now we have only about 30% left, and that includes just the ordinary, wood, rubber trees, cashew tree, and all the mango stuff. The most expensive one, most of them have been cut and sold out. So the most troubling one is related to the effect on the judicial sector. There's a lot of social injustice because of corruption. People, poor people, vulnerable people don't get access to a fair trial. They often get lost in all the cases involving land disputes or all types of civil cases when they deal with rich people or powerful elites, because the court are considered the most corrupt institution among all the public institutions in our country. With that, I would like to play or show you a short video that illustrates true stories as an effect on the judicial sector caused by corruption.
កាលពីព្រេងនាយមានស្ដេចថ្មាតមួយ មានពួកពលបរិវារជាច្រើនអាស្រ័យនៅក្នុងព្រៃ ប៉ា Bye. Mong bay ní từ là ca hai nhóm từ sẽ đạp xa krong anh. Dương miền ai cả xa, miền dạ xây cục còn. Dương bật chỉ nghe phục vía.
Rồi, nhầm rồi chăng ngày nay vui hai. Bon, ngày đi xem mong rương cách đây mong bay ngày ní.
តាមការពិចារណាដោយធ្វើមកនេះតុលាការសម្រេចចានចោលបណ្ដឹងរបស់ដើមបណ្ដឹងគូធារា
ឡាការសម្ដេចមិនអីឯង
យើងចាញ់គេឲ្យពុកវាយើងចាញ់គេឲ្យពុកវា
យកមួយដាច់ខ្មាត់នោះដេកទៅយកសពថាបានចាប់ស្ដេចដំរីសយកធ្វើជាអាហារទីបំផុតសុភាទន្សាយបានកាត់ក្តីឲ្យដំរីឈ្នះយុត្តិធម៌តែងតែឈ្នះអយុត្តិធម៌ម៉ែយុត្តិធម៌តែងតែឈ្នះមែនអត់បងឯងមិនឲ្យការយកសពរបស់បងថ្មាតឯងក៏ឥតបានការអ្វីដែរដំរីក៏ខ្ញុំមិនឲ្យបងថ្មាតឯងស៊ីដូចគ្នាដូច្នេះសុភាទន្សាយក៏កាត់ក្តីឲ្យដំដីឈ្នះយុត្តិធម៌តែងតែឈ្នះអយុត្តិធម៌ប៉ាយុត្តិធម៌តែងតែឈ្នះអយុត្តិធម៌មែនអត់
So that is quite tragic, and that's a true story, and there are many of that. That's on the judicial sector effects caused by corruption. So we'll go on because of the time. Right, next. Yeah, and there's also a lot of effects to the economy and to the development of the infrastructure. As you can see, there is a huge gap between the rich and the poor. The video you just seen illustrate that too, with this SUV and a bicycle as a mean of transport, the housing and all of that. Look at the infrastructure. In Cambodia, we have a joke that say the road construction never ends. It's one way to say that there's an ongoing development, but the joking side of it is that the road keep being repaired almost every week because the quality is not good, and the reason for that is because of corruption. Here in the picture, you see a tragic accident in Bangladesh some years ago, which a factory building collapsed and hundreds of people died and several hundred injured. And after the investigation, there was some corruption involved in the construction of the building. So it does kill many people. Next, please. Yeah, and the service, getting access to public service is also, depending on the money that people have. If you have the money, you can get immediate services. For those who don't have, they have to be in queue, and it takes some time forever. So I conclude or kind of look at corruption in comparing to an HIV. As an HIV destroy immune system that allow other diseases to ruin human's life. and then corruption destroy integrity system, which allow social disease to ruin the country development. And that is also transmitting like HIV. In Cambodia, when we look at the opinions of the people, how they view different public institutions, what institution do they consider corrupt and most corrupt, we have seen here the judicial sector and the judges, the court are the most corrupt, as I said, followed by the police and then the government officials. And down the road, further, and it also confirmed, next please, by our national integrity system assessments, that looking more closely at the actual reality, we also see the judiciary score the lowest, 16 out of 100, and it's below the average, which means the integrity system of the court is very weak, and corruption is really running through all the different procedures in the court, from filing the complaints to the investigation and to the judging processes. So fortunately, in most of the developing world, highly corrupt country, the surveys and opinion surveys show that the people are willing to speak out. As you can see in this, the last survey was 73% of the people are considering that they are able to make a difference when they join the fight against corruption. So that is the good news, and that influences the way we come up with our strategy. So how TI Cambodia has tried to intervene with this? When I started to create the chapter more than 7 years ago, I looked at the baseline data, a household survey, nationwide survey, and at the time I was very stunned to know that 2/3 of our people, of my Cambodian people, didn't really think corruption is a problem. They thought it's a normal way of life because they have lived with it for too long until they accept it as a part of their daily life. So I was very stunned, but we had to do something about it. So our strategy was designed under this theory of change to influence the people's attitudes, to bring them to different steps when from there was no problem to there's problem but there's nothing I can do about it, to there is problem, I want to learn more about it, and then going next is I am ready for action, and the final one is I am demonstrating solution to others and advocate for betterment. So we have moved from the bottom up, and now still half of the people are on the third stage. We've been able to move a quarter of them to number 4 and small margin to the final one. So this is a theory of change that we have been trying to affect our society. And these are the core kind of program, strategy, program intervention that we have been implementing. Number 1 is public sector engagement program, which we support public institution reform. And I will go to that in a minute. And the second one is partnership and coalition building. Number 3 is citizen and youth engagement, which is one of our priorities, core priorities, promoting business integrity, and also doing the governance foundation to strengthen our institution. Last but not least, research and advocacy, because we have to have evidence to form our reason to do advocacy and to come up with the support that we need to do advocacy. Yeah, so the business integrity is mainly to try to engage the private sector to understand that corruption affects their business. And it's not difficult to convince them with that. They all actually have already become victims of that. So it's easy to work together and to try to improve things. And what we do is to try to build internal system. We call it corporate integrity system, so that they can detect and prevent corruption within the company. Next, please. We have a lot of youth-led programs under citizen and youth engagement. So far, we have network members of more than 20,000 across the country. Yeah. These are some of the pictures of the forums that we have with young people. Please, if you go quicker so that we have some more time. It's another one. And we, as you can see in the photo, we have camping. This is one of the things that is quite fascinating. We bring hundreds of youth leaders to different remote area. We have tents, and then we do a 1 week kind of program to train them on integrity, corruption, and discuss what people can do to fight corruption and promote integrity, transparency. And lots of the young people engage in this program. So hanging there, I'm talking a little bit about the impact. So the impact we have now, if you can go back a bit. Yes, thank you. So now more people understand about corruption and are willing to speak up. When we started 7, 8 years ago, we have a forum where we ask people to speak about corruption, and I work very hard to try to encourage 1 or 2 persons among hundreds of people to talk about it. It's not easy because they feel afraid. It's very sensitive. Now, when we do that forum, I also have to work hard, but to manage them one by one to come and talk, because they wanted to talk about it. You know, so that is a change. We also have increased demand from the people, according to the Global Corruption Barometer, and that is a pressure for politicians to try to change things. So we have put that agenda very high in the development agenda. Corruption become the top priority. Next, please. We do also support public financial management reform, and that is also yielding some result. Our tax collection revenue increased by between 18 to 20%, which is quite significant over the last few years when the tax collection reform take effects. They are able to get more money to the national budget, which used to come through their personal pocket in the past. So that also the effect of it. We also manage to also decrease the bribery to the public services. If you can see there is a decline in the percentage of bribery from 2011 to 2016, from average 84 to only 40, and we can go deeper to what are those services. You can see there are bribery happen in the police sector with the identification document or civil registry, to hospital, public school, and other utility services. The rate of bribery has declined across those years significantly, and that is also the result of improvement through our contribution as well. You can go next, please. But that comes with some significant challenges, because there is a lack of genuine political will from the top to do things seriously. A lot of that has been like rhetoric for popularity. I call that window dressing types of messages, not get to actual implementation. The lack of independence law enforcement agency, the consolidated power, state capture, and shrinking of civil society space in the past few years has affected us very tremendously. We have legal risks and also security risks that for our people, for our staff, especially including myself. I have sometimes been required to flee the country for safety a number of times, and be under constant surveillance and followed by the regime, those who wanted to know who I met, what I'm talking about, what I'm doing, and that is part of the tactics. We have also affect, this risk also apply to top management as well, not just myself. And sometimes we've been labeled as an opposition group who are trying to overthrow the government instead of trying to help improve the way things are being implemented. Next, please. So I would conclude my presentation with this slide. Oftentimes, the fundamental challenges involve the lack of independence of the anti-corruption agencies, the asset declaration not declare publicly. They do it like just, put in envelope and then get to the anti-corruption, keep it so nobody know what it is. The lack of access to information law, the political corruption, lack of political accountability mechanism, judicial corruption, and the lack of media freedom and freedom of expression are the fundamental challenges that the world with the highly corrupt status are facing commonly. And to address that, there is a general types of solution that I would see as a practical and effective one is to ensure the anti-corruption law allow appointment of independent president for anti-corruption agency, and the anti-corruption law that require asset declaration to be made public, the adoption of access to information law and the whistleblower protection law would be a great help to the fight against corruption. Set up integrity mechanism for political and electoral process, and active participation of citizens in the fight against corruption and promoting of accountability, push for judicial reform and ensure independence of the court, promote freedom of press and the media and freedom of expression among people, and slowly to promote a culture of integrity into the society. And the final summary of it is, if we would say that corruption can be tackled. It's difficult, but we can make it, we can improve the situation, we can reduce corruption. There are three approaches. One is to go with the demand side approach by going to work with civil society, with the people, to strengthen the capacity of the citizens, empower them and get them involved more actively, do evidence-based studies and research to do advocacy and build capacity of the whole society, including trade unions. We also take approach of supply-driven by working with government, public institutions to support reform, build their capacity, both providing support technically and financially, do constructive engagement, but with a firm principle here is that it's easy to be co-opted if you get involved in the corrupt government institution. They would like to be engaging us to stamp on stuff and then say, we are doing it right, and try to co-opt that for credit. So we have to be very careful on that. And then capacity development to political parties who are also having influence on the reform. But we also need to do that holistically by looking at three aspects. First priority would be law enforcement. That is very important. Zero tolerance and law enforcement is the most effective measure. But then not enough, we need to do prevention to how to prevent people from getting corrupt, to getting involved in corruption. And then long-term and the effective, sustainable solution would be the education on integrity to create a new culture among young generation. And that's what we are focusing more at the moment in Cambodia, is to engage massive numbers of young people. And for us, it is, it is coincident, I would say, that we have unique demographic aspect. 68%, almost 70% of our people are under the age of 30 years old. This is unique because of our history, because of the killing field that you may have heard during the Khmer Rouge time, so many people were killed at that time, and then many of the young people were born after the 1980s, and they are among the youth, the young population that we go after. And that is our main focus at the moment in Cambodia. And that's it. Thank you for your attention and look forward to respond to your question. Thank you very much.